I'm in the process of getting ready to Sinew back, and I debated whether or not to actually show the process, but it's kind of a funny thing is that I want to have as much concentration as possible and in talking in the camera and it being a very long process, because I could probably Sinew back this in an hour once I have all the pieces and parts together. I'm going to direct you to videos on YouTube that show the process very well, people that know how to edit, where they take, and this is the Sinew that I have procured. Remember, they were kind of like those gas station sausage things, just hard things, and I pounded them with a hammer, which does take a technique, actually, because you don't want to cut the fibers. The strength of the final product depends on the strength of this stuff. And if you're like, just like you're forging something, you know, slamming it down with a hammer onto a surface which potentially has grit in it like concrete does, you could cut your tendons. My technique for pounding, I have a 3-pound sledge, and I let the sledge do all the work, and it's more of just kind of a soft pounding thing where you're taking the tendon, you're rolling it because you want to basically hit it from every side and not just create a flat thing. Just kind of a bouncing, not really reefing into it kind of a thing. Let the hammer do the work. You could certainly use, I've used smooth rock with a smooth round rock, but the object is just, you know, more than just driving it home like that. Okay, so I was able to take my eight tendons, and what I like to do is just, and you don't have to, I'll take the bow, you notice I have these on here, not 100% necessary, but every little bit helps. Just take it and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 going past it, so I'm going to have, even though I'm going to be doing a brickwork, I like to get some idea how much sinew is going to go on here. I could even take these things and get it, what I would estimate would be enough for a layer, and just kind of lay them down on there, just get an idea. But 8 will work. It's not going to be a thick power layer, it'll work. Part 2, the bow, as far as sizing, and you can either use a paper towel to handle it after you wash it, and yes, you can, and I've done this, take it into the shower, hot water, soap, scrub brush, getting all the oil off of there. You might say, well, I spent so much time curing this wood, bringing it down to a proper moisture level. Why on earth am I going to take it into the shower and just wash the heck out of it with a detergent, or a soap, or a shampoo that doesn't have a conditioner in it? The answer is, once I lay the sinew on here, it's going to be sitting for a couple months. I'm going to go as far as when it does its initial dry down, and to get to that point, it just means that when you're pushing on the sinew, it's not soft and it's clear. You can then see the wood through it. I'm going to take it up to a friend's house that has racks over a wood stove, and I'm just going to bake it. Yes, you can do that. How do I know it's done? Well, I'm going to memorize. In this case, it's got a little deflex to it. I'm going to memorize that, and when it brings it into reflex, which it will do, then it's done. It's kind of like that pop-up timer on the turkey. Okay, sizing. You have cleaned it. You have used the detergent. In the case of Osage orange, after you grease it and bent it, you're going to have to go through more steps because there's a lot of grease in there, plus Osage and mulberry have oils. And so that's when I would get into, after I rubbed grease on it, heated it, and formed them into their shapes, that's when I would use that lye solution. A little secret, not because I'm sure that not all of you are going to run out and do this, is I made a video. I had my goggles on, I had my rubber gloves, all the safety equipment, and I'm degreasing the bow, soapifying it, actually turning that grease into soap, which is a benefit to us because it helps break down the gluiness and helps it absorb. But I actually mixed my Red Devil lye almost twice as strong as I showed in that video. I was reluctant to do that because of safety issues. But on any normal bow, you're touching it, you want to degrease it, you want to take that hand oil off, you can just use a nice detergent, like Dawn, you know, to give you a specific, whatever dish soap you have next to your sink works, a nice scrub brush, and just get it nice and lathery and rinse it off. Don't worry too much about it. That should work. In fact, when you have your glue, and I'll talk a little bit about this, when I put it in the double boiler and heat it up, it'll turn thin. When you have soap, detergent, dish detergent, some soapification, I'll go so far as to have a coffee mug full of warm water, soapy, the same soap that I did this, and when I'm putting on my first layers of glue for the sizing. Sizing just means you're getting it so it's not going to be completely porous. You're getting a glue base on here, so when you lay the sinew on here, it's not going to suck it up and have a dry joint. I'll take it and I'll heat the bowl. You can use a hot air gun, or you can use your electric range. Hold it over there. Make sure that wood is wet or hot. Doesn't need to be scorching hot, but hot. So when you put the glue on that's thin because of the heat, it's not going to hit that colder surface and then gel. You want it to stay liquid as long as possible so it can soak in. And so heat the wood. Rub hot dishwashing liquid on here, dishwashing detergent liquid on here, and then rub your glue on there. Interesting thing happens. I don't know how much it helps. I mean, the detergent helps it absorb into the wood, the first layers of the sizing. But perhaps when that wood is hot and it cools down, when you start applying stuff to it, it might suck it in, because hot air gets bigger, expands, and then when it cools down it contracts and maybe draws it in there. And so I did that on this. This has been sized, the first. I'm going to size it again because it still looks dry on there. I'm going to keep doing that over and over again until I can wet my finger without the gloves on and it sticks. That shows me that it's ready for sinew back. Your glue. Now, usually I use, this is a bag of dried hide glue that you can buy from an instrument repair place, StewMac or Shar Instruments, because this is what violin builders and cello builders and what my Gibson mandolin was glued together with, hide glue. And that's usually rabbit skin that's boiled. I could take my sinew scraps. It'd take more than this, but I could simmer those down and make a glue. They'll kind of break apart. You don't want to overheat it, so you're breaking down all the protein chains. Don't I sound scientific? Or in the case of this, Phil gave this to me. He gave me flaked glue made from, it was simmered down and put in a shallow pan and dried and then flaked up, made from deer rawhide scraps. And that is sticky stuff and appears to be basically the same molecule as all this other stuff, so it should work. I want to have, sounds kind of like Yellow Submarine or something like that. I want to have it so at room temperature it's gelled. I don't want it to be hard as a brick. This is probably on the hard side. You don't have to have it that thick. If I'm going to mix this stuff into a pot that's going to go in a double boiler or a big coffee mug or what have you, I'll usually use almost 1/2. Got that volume in there. Half of it will be this stuff, and there's air spaces, so it's not a true half by volume. And then the rest water. That's on the thick side. It doesn't need to be that much, but that will work. If you're using thick glue like that, and this is not a deal breaker, this doesn't really matter, when you dip your little bundles in, and I count to 30, I want to have that hot enough that I feel it. This is the glue in my double boiler. I want to have it hot enough to feel it, but I don't want to have it so hot that it shrivels up the sinew. You can kind of get a beat on that. Count to 30. I'm going to squeeze as much glue out of that as possible, because I don't want to have a glue sinew layer. I want to have a sinew layer. Now, if you don't squeeze it out enough and you've got too much glue on your backing, is it going to hurt anything? It'll sound scary because it's going to crack. The first couple times you draw that bow, you're going to be hearing that hide glue cracking. But It's not a big thing. This is one reason why the natives would dip the stuff, or however they do it, have a ball of this in their mouth and then chew it. That works too. I've done that. Kind of gross, but I've done that. That's why they would wrap it really tight, because if you have a soupy layer of glue, or soupy bowl of glue you're dipping this in, and you put this on here, they would wrap it tightly with cherry bark or something like that to squeeze the excess glue out. So that is that. Keep in mind that this is made out of the same stuff as this. When you get this hot and you put a little extra glue in there, this stuff is almost self-gluing. It's not like a fiberglass cloth needing that much resin. This is made out of glue. This is long, white, strong, fluffy glue. And that is that. I am currently on the stove, got my pan, got the container that has the rest of this. I'm going to water it down a little bit. That's why I'm going to put a couple of these chunks in a freezer bag and put it in the freezer, and it'll last forever like that. Mix it down with some water a little bit. I don't need to have that thick of glue. And it's got kind of a sheen. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to put another layer of sizing on it. I want to make sure that when I wet my finger, it's going to stick. And after I size it, do I have to Sinew back it right away? No, because this is completely water soluble. And if I was to like wait a week after I size it with a hide glue or whatever, and I laid the Sinew down there, and I'm going to wrap it with gauze, it's going to stay damp long enough between that wood and that Sinew to reinvigorate the glue, that dried sizing layer. I don't want to size it and then leave it for 6 months because I don't want dust and oils to accumulate on it, but you don't have to get at it right away. Funny tidbit, I start Sinew baking at 11 o'clock at night. I don't know what it is. I've just done that so often. Probably because I've spent all day doing this stuff, and then it turns out to be 11 and I want to get it on the bow. It's just a tradition. It's what I do. Hope I answered your questions. Close-up of the bow, which is ironic. Phoenix rising out of the ashes. This came from Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, if you're from a different country and don't know where Phoenix is. Phil's glue that he made. And so this is a multilateral process. This is an interesting bow because it has pieces and parts that are contributed by so far 3 people. 4 if you count Mike Gansey. Nice. Have a good one.